Hey, good evening, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Panovich here for Live Weather Impact. Well, I look blurry. I think, Sean, I'm super blurry there. We might have to focus that up. I'm like, either my eyes are really bad, or if you're watching right now, there we go. Thank you, Sean. Somebody bumped our camera there. I'm like, so that's pretty late. It's a long day, but not that long yet. Welcome in tonight on Live Weather Impact. This is Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Brittany and Voorhees will probably join me in a little bit. Tim's going to join me. We're talking rain, folks. That's the big story today. Finally, much needed rainfall on the way. We had a little bit earlier today, but look at this. There's more on the way. This is actually starting to unfold pretty much the way we expected, with the heaviest rain coming in tonight into tomorrow. Boy, we've got some big-time severe weather ongoing to our south. Several tornado warnings in parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. The good news for us, none of that really severe weather is heading away. Doesn't mean we couldn't see a couple strong storms, which we'll get into in a moment, but you could see all this rain heading our way. To me, this is the best view right there. Look at that radar view. You can just progress that off to the east. That's not going to miss us. It's just a matter of whether you get under one of the heavier thunderstorms, and if you get hit repeatedly, that's really what's going to drive the rainfall totals up. We call that training, when the same area gets hit again and again, and the word training comes from, think about train tracks. If you live on the train tracks and each car goes over the same spot again and again, well, if you get the same cluster of storms and move over the same spot, you end up with some heavier downpours. So we already have some good rain out there. Here we are at 6:30, light rain in the Hickory, Newton, Conover area. That's the Unifor region, up through the foothills, then back into Rutherford County, over there towards Lake Lure, not too far from Polk County, then going down into the upstate. And then we watch a couple thunderstorms coming into the upstate, over towards Clemson, Anderson area. We've got a pretty good cluster there. That's the one little cell we'll have to watch this evening, because the sun doesn't set now. I'm looking at my watch. The sun sets at 8:13 tonight. Boy, it's just getting later and later. So we still have time to warm up a little bit. Temperatures are in the upper 70s, low 80s. But the biggest difference today compared to really the last 2 months, we actually have humidity. It's not crazy high, but low to mid 60 dew points. That actually means there's moisture for this front to work with. We've had cold fronts like this a lot this spring, and they've moved into really bone dry air, and there just hasn't been anything to work with. So for the next couple of hours, you see the rain chances kind of bouncing back and forth. There's going to be an uptick later this evening, then a big one overnight tonight. I'll show you the overnight rain chances, because this is the best news you're going to see. That pretty much, it's going to rain, okay? It's just a matter of how much right now, which is really a minor miracle considering how dry it's been. We're getting really excited for this. This is kind of normal springtime weather setup. It's just we haven't had it at all. And this is the first time we've seen this deep plume of tropical moisture get up here ahead of this front. That's why we're so excited for the chance of rain out there. Now, let's look at the severe weather risk. Obviously, we've got a low risk over our area. That's mainly because some of the storms that head our way, they could probably have what we call momentum, where they could carry some gusty winds in here. So certainly a possibility, especially between now and midnight. After midnight, I think the threat goes downhill pretty quickly. But the impacts, the primary concern here is going to be damaging winds. We call this a non-zero tornado threat. Basically means it's not zero, but it's pretty low. I don't expect tornado risk unless we get a supercell or two to get going, and that looks more likely down in South Carolina. So let's start at 6 o'clock. Scattered showers and storms. By 9 o'clock, we'll probably get into some activity here. Overnight, on again, off again, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Look at some of these downpours. I mean, really across our entire area. Now, the reason we want you to be alert is if we see heavy rain leak into the morning commute. What I mean by that is downpours during that 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock time frame. That will cause issues on the roads. If it's light rain, it shouldn't cause issue on the roads. It might, but that's usually more a driver error than it is with the rainfall. Remember, the sunrise tomorrow morning, 6:27. Okay, so it's not dark at 6:30, 7 o'clock. So if it's raining, visibility should be pretty good. I worry more about those commutes where it's dark and it's pouring rain. That's usually when we see big time issues. So if it's heavy rain, it certainly will slow you down. So just think about that when you're getting up tomorrow or even going to bed tonight. Maybe give yourself a little extra time. We get a lull in the middle of the day tomorrow. Then look at this, another line of showers and storms form, probably along a cold front that's going to develop in the afternoon. This is actually the front pushing in, and you'll see it kind of diving south, and then that pushes through, and then boy, it gets kind of chilly. It's been warm and humid here the last 2 days for for this time of year, but we're going to see temperatures back in the 30s and 40s by Friday morning. So free air conditioning moves back, and then going into Friday looks like a great day. I've taken all the rain chances out right now. Even a low risk of flash flooding for a few areas to our west. You can see the medium risk back there. I don't anticipate flood issues. If we see a flood issue, it's going to be a clogged storm drain or just rain too fast in one spot, and that caused an issue. So how much rain could we see? Now, big caveat here. This is a disclaimer. We show model totals like this. People go, we're getting 2.49. That's not what's going to fall, or 2.1. We're not that good. And the model's just spitting out a number. I look more at the range of possibilities. So if we were to take what we call spread, pick the lowest number in our area. The lowest number, I'm going to look real quickly, is actually Morganton, 0.45, so roughly a half an inch. Highest total, we'll pick that out, 2.39, it looks like, down in Cheraw. So if you spread that out, that's kind of the range of possibilities across our area, because this could shift north, south, east, west. And just to put this in perspective, if you get a half an inch, that's the most rain we've seen in 2 months. If we get an inch of rain, that's the most rain we've seen in 3 months. So this is substantial, even if you take half of those numbers into consideration. That should show you how much we're going to see. Now, the first question we're going to get, and Brittany and I talked about this already, people are going to go, is the drought over? No. This will not end the drought at all, because we need 15 inches of rain in 30 days. So even if we get the highest number, 2.5 inches, that only takes 2.5 inches off of that 15. So we need probably 12.5 more inches to get back to where we want to be, right? So we got a long ways to go. Now, this will not affect the drought monitor tomorrow either, because the drought monitor, even though it comes out on Thursdays, the data goes Tuesday to Tuesday. So none of the rain that falls today, tonight, tomorrow will count in this week's drought monitor. It's in next week's drought monitor. So just a heads up. That is something that we're going to be asked a lot about, and we'll try to answer that ahead of time. Truist Championship going on. Rain, they've already delayed the start Thursday and Friday because of rain in the mornings. So just a heads up, that'll give the crews time to get the course ready. So you got time to get out there. I would caution you, bring good shoes, waterproof shoes if you're heading out to the course, because it's going to be wet. Here's a look at your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Obviously rain tomorrow. We could see rain again Sunday, Monday, but a really nice weekend. So stick around. We're going to talk more weather with Brittany and Tim coming up after the break.
Weather Impact Live with Brad Panovich is sponsored by Moisture Lock, basement and foundation repair expert serving the Carolinas since 1988.
Tired of all this rain? Does your yard look like a swamp after it rains? Hi, I'm Greg Doggett with Moisture Lock, Charlotte's premier waterproofing and foundation repair company. The longer water sits, the softer soil will become. This can cause foundation issues. If you're having drainage issues, contact Moisture Lock. We'll get the water away from your home and out of your yard.
Moisture Lock, stabilize, enhance, protect.
Buddy, we've got a trifecta here. It's BB&T, not the former bank. It's Brad, Brittany, and Tim. Tim, I don't know about you. I'm looking at the regional radars, and I just want to look at it and I feel like one of those dads staring at a rain, going, "Oh, this is what we needed." When I'm looking at the radar, because it looks so nice to see the rain coming in.
It's been a while. It really has, and I think you're positioned pretty well in Charlotte at the moment. I might have a little concern up here, but there's a little northward movement with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think this is something that we want to see, and getting those thunderstorm elements out to the west, even if they weaken, thunderstorms, they spread out into bigger areas of rain, right? So this is something that you want to see, especially going into an overnight. I do think that the overnight hours have some promise for us.
Yeah, it's almost like the perfect rain, because, I'd love to see a stratiform widespread rain, but, the fact that it's going to be pretty widespread, there's elements of heavy rain, and it's falling at night, Tim. It's like, I don't know about you, but rainfall at night's like the perfect. If we could get all of our rain at night and not impact a lot of people's daytime activities, I think that would be ideal. That would be perfect. So it's actually a pretty good setup for us. And overall, not a huge severe weather risk. I noticed you showed something that I was showing too, were the dew point temperatures. It's been such a long time too since we've seen humidity. It feels weird, and let's be honest, this isn't crazy summer humidity, but dew points in the 60s, especially low and mid 60s, not something we've seen a lot of this spring at all. So with a cold front and dew points in the 60s, that's what we normally have in a spring setup. We just have not had this setup until this moment.
Well, and that's made it harder to get rain, right? When you had that drier air in place. And we had the drier air earlier today, which did cut down on some of the totals until these dew points went up. This is going to make it a little easier and a little more efficient for the rain to reach the ground and blossom and grow and do all the things it's supposed to do. So getting that humidity in here, it does sometimes usher in a severe weather threat. I'm not too concerned this time around, especially up in the Triad area. But like you said, it's not something that's been happening, and it's totally related. The drought and the humidity are, of course, related.
All right, so let's talk about some expectations here, because I feel like, I show Futurecast and people are like, and the rain today, first of all, was not the only part of the rain event. I think a lot of people are like, I barely got any rain today. I'm like, well, that's not really the main action. That was, I wouldn't even call that an appetizer. That might have been like the dinner salad. It wasn't even like close to the beginning of this. The big stuff's coming in tonight, Tim. And I always like to set expectations. I think when we say, hey, there could be up to an inch of rain, everybody thinks there's just going to be 1 inch everywhere, right? And in many cases, it's kind of just all over the place. There's these big spreads, and someone's going to get a 1/4 inch, someone's going to get 1 inch. I think someone could get 2 inches if you get repeated thunderstorms. But we should set the expectations. This is not going to come all out of one system, too. It's going to be waves of rain. And so there might be one wave around 8 or 9, another wave at midnight. And then overnight, there'll be periods of rain and lulls. It's not just going to be this consistent, easy way to just say everybody gets this at this moment in time and it's over. It's going to be kind of an all-night on and off thing, right?
Well, for sure. And this is where I kind of empathize with the viewers a little bit, because, we got to be upfront with you about what we're good at and what we're not good at.
Yeah.
As meteorologists, we're really not good at telling you where downpours are going to be. If there's going to be areas and pockets of rain that have heavier elements, we can't necessarily tell you if they're going to be in Concord versus Salisbury versus Lexington.
Yeah.
Those are all equal chances, basically.
Yep.
And they make a huge difference. So you need to be a little comfortable with some uncertainty. So kind of setting a lower bound, which might be around 1/3 of an inch with this event, and an upper bound, which might be around 1 inch. That's not the answer you want to hear. You want to know how much rain you're going to get, but as you know, and Brittany, you know this all the same, we don't know how much rain is going to happen in your backyard.
Yeah, since we have golf in town this week, I always like to equate it to golf. The whole point as a forecaster is like keep it in the fairway and get it on the green. I think people think we can just get a hole-in-one on every hole. That's not really the way it works, right? We're just trying to keep it in the middle of the fairway, and that's what we're doing. And so the forecast, and I actually showed this earlier, and I made this point. We show these beautiful, Futurecast rainfall amounts, right, Tim? And we show these specific numbers, 2.19. And I always tell people it's not going to be 2.19. I like to look at this map differently, and I think people should look at this map differently. I picked the lowest total and the highest total, and I go, That's the spread of rain chances across our area. Somebody's going to get a half an inch and someone could get 2 inches, but we don't know where that's going to set up. So imagine this map shifted 50 miles north or 50 miles south or 50 miles east or west. Those are all still possibilities. But the fact that we have such a good total, I mean, that spread there is really nice, Tim. We talked a lot about if you cut those in half, that's still a pretty good event. And I love the graphic you made. Brittany and I were talking about this. If we get a half an inch, that's going to be a big deal for a lot of folks because it's been so long since we've seen totals like this.
You're so right. It's been a really long time and unusual for the Carolinas. You're not getting regular rain. And that's been the whole point about this drought. It's not just that you're not getting the big events, you're not even getting the small events. A quarter inch of rain is not a big deal in North Carolina. But when we're looking at right here, these are the thresholds: a quarter inch, a half an inch, 1 inch, and 2 inches. This data is for Greensboro. We haven't had a quarter inch in Greensboro since Easter Sunday. Yeah. We haven't had a half an inch since the middle of March, 1 inch since February. 2 inches, you got to go way back to Chantal and back in July. And 2 inches is not common. Okay. But a half an inch, a quarter inch, that should be happening pretty regularly. And, you know, talk about this. We should be seeing about an inch of rain every week. That's just our climate in North Carolina. So we're not even getting close to it. And that's why the drought just keeps compounding on itself.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'll bring Brittany in here because she knows the numbers. The dates and numbers are almost identical for Charlotte, Tim, because our last substantial rain was Easter Sunday. It was like 0.3 of an inch. Mm-hmm. And then middle of March, middle of February, or our half inch and 1 inch. So what were those dates, Brittany?
So Easter Sunday was April 5th. We had 0.32. And then March 16th, right at half of an inch. So that's the only date that really differs from Tim's. And then February 15th, we had an inch and a quarter, just over that, 1.33. And I think, Brad, we were talking about this too. Like, we also have to go back to 2 inches of July of last year. Yeah. So it is just kind of crazy that these are not only lining up so specifically, but, you know, we've talked about it so much that it's not just the fact that we are not seeing a lot of rain. It is the fact that it has been months and months. It was summer of last year that we even had above average rainfall for the year so far. We're still in the number one driest starts to the year in Charlotte. So while this is very helpful, it is not going to be enough in that short period of time. I was actually looking at the chances of getting out of a drought, and shows Sean, I actually have this on Graphics 11 if you're able to pull it up. So when we look at that drought termination data, right, it tells us that we need about 13 inches of rain, you know, in a short period of time here in Charlotte to get out of the drought within a month. But the actual percentage numbers right now, there's a 0% chance that Charlotte gets out of a drought in a month. There's a less than 1% chance that we get out in 1 month. And so these numbers have just really consistently gone down. So I think it's just, I mean, the data speaks for itself. Less than 0.1% chance that Morganton and Boone get out of it in a month. So it really just shows you that the hole that we've dug ourselves in. And obviously it's not our fault. It's just the way the Mother Nature is shaping up. But that's why it's interesting that when we get 0.1, when folks are like, we're out of the drought, we're good to go. Yeah. And that's kind of how that debt comparison that we were talking about last week all came in.
Yeah, and Tim, we're pretty good at forecasting the weather, but we all are kind of forecasting people's reaction to the rain.
It's true.
Because that's going to be the first question, right? Oh, we're done with the drought, right, or water restrictions or whatever. But you brought the numbers up. Rainfall needed to end the drought. Brittany just showed you the chances. I mean, let's say we get 2 inches tomorrow, Tim, and that's like the highest total. That's like the ceiling, right? That we would still need like 13, 14 inches of rain the next month to end the drought. So I think a lot of folks should just, this is going to help. Don't get me wrong. It's totally going to help. It's going to put a dent in the drought, but it is not going to eliminate it. And also tomorrow the drought monitor comes out, Tim. And as we know, guess when the data is done for the drought monitor? Tuesday to Tuesday. So that the rain that falls tonight and tomorrow will not even count in this week's drought monitor. It will go into next week's drought monitor.
That's right. So don't expect a big change tomorrow. There is, I believe, my memory is not always the best here. I think there's a little bit of last week's rain that'll be included in this week's report from last Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, but not what we're seeing now, not what we're seeing overnight, not what we're seeing tomorrow. So that will not be included. But you're so right. We're not going to fix this thing. Don't even focus on ending the drought. We just have to focus on getting more regular rainfall. And, you know, we just got to return to being ourselves. North Carolina's climate is regular rainfall every couple days, every, a few times a week. Obviously, you're going to have dry spells. You're going to have wet spells. But we need to be getting at least a couple inches of rain every month, preferably 3 to 4. And the fact that we have a deficit, if we could get 5 to 6 inches every now and then in a month, that would be wonderful. But we need to return back to our normal personality, and we're just not at that point yet.
Yeah, you almost have to get back to even before you can start going back the other direction, and we're not even back to that yet. The other question we get a lot is, so a lot of water restrictions around here have gone into effect this week, and in Charlotte they go into effect next week, and I've already had questions, hey, are the water restrictions going to go away? The thing to remember, even though this is pretty substantial rain, a lot of these reservoirs that are our drinking sources, they're like several feet below where they need to be. And when we show this map, which is a great map, one of the things for us, and this is really Charlotte specific, so for Charlotte, during Helene how we had all the flooding down in Charlotte and it was really rain in the mountains. The water source for our Catawba River chain and all the lakes, we're talking Lake James, Lake Hickory, Lake Norman, Mountain Island Lake, that all comes from like the foothills in the mountains. So the heavy rain up there actually replenishes the lakes and streams much better than it raining over Charlotte. So for our water supply, I would actually be more optimistic for that recovering if we had heavy rain in the mountains. And when you look at this setup today, Tim, and tonight, it really, like you said, it looks like maybe more south than a little bit southeast, and maybe the mountains don't get as much as we're going to see in other parts of the area.
We'd like to see it building north a little bit if we can. A lot of times storms like that tend to dive to the right, as we call it, or most of the time it's diving to the south. So I'm not so sure that a lot of those will be headed towards Charlotte per se, but there's more action over in Tennessee, right? And that's kind of coming in a number of ways. It's interesting, tomorrow you've got actually the storms to the south. You've got a little bit of a backdoor front coming in as well from the north. So there's a lot of squeezing and a lot of forcing, different ways you can get rainfall. It's good when you have different ways and not just all one reason. There are going to be multiple reasons for it to be raining tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah, so when we look at Futurecast, I'll show it real quickly, and it kind of shows our whole area. You see the waves of rain. Tim, for you guys, it looks like this little band that's trying to hint at around 2, 3 in the morning might be your best chance somewhere in there, which is interesting. I don't know if that's the front or something. It looks like some kind of boundary or something up there, but that'll be interesting. And like I said, some of the heaviest rain might be falling while people sleep. That's the other thing. It's so funny. When it rains in the middle of the night and people don't see it, it's like it didn't happen. So it's like if you don't have a rain gauge, you're probably going to wonder, hey, did it rain last night? Yeah, it did, and we'll check the rain gauges, but a lot of this will fall while people sleep, and so you'll probably wonder where all the rain is. But then tomorrow, as you mentioned, Tim, it kind of clears out, and then this little backdoor front, which is, let's be honest, there's some pretty cold air to the north. I was looking up in the Great Lakes today. There's some chilly air up there. It tries to kick off some stray showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, and for May in particular, there's some pretty cold air in parts of the country. We didn't get to really hit on it earlier this week, but we've got snow falling in Denver in the Front Range of the Rockies. I think that might be their biggest storm of the winter and spring, if I'm not mistaken. And just so people know, in Denver, it seems weird, I know, but I know that climate pretty well. The snowiest times of the year in Denver are actually the fall and the spring, not the winter time, believe it or not. So this is not abnormal for them. What was abnormal, it didn't snow at all during the winter, and now it's finally snowing during the springtime.
Super weird out there. I was kind of glued to those pictures and videos yesterday, and I don't know, some of the higher elevations got like 2 feet of snow or something like that. So good for them. Kind of weird. That's not for me. But if they're liking that, I'm good for them. I think that's pretty cool stuff. As a weather geek, I'll happily watch it from afar. It looks like it's over now, but I got a buddy, Brad, out there. He lives in, just outside of Denver. They just got their lawn seeded. They got everything going on. They've been planting all the summer plants. And surprise,
look at that.
Chris's yard has snow on it.
Yeah, you're right. They probably are like, all right, we didn't have our winter, we're done with it. And then it's like, okay, Mother Nature, now you're going to snow after we didn't get anything all winter. That's kind of brutal for them. But I tell you what, from a water standpoint, that is good news, because the snowpack is a big water source out there in the Rockies, so that will help them, especially as they get into the fire season. But I was talking about the Great Lakes as well. We're looking up there, and there's some chances, some snow flurries coming off the upper peninsula of Michigan. And so it's crazy to see some of these cold air. So that's what's kind of driving this front, honestly. We're not getting the super cold air, but this is actually kind of the weather we should have had back in March and April. I feel like we've gone in reverse this spring. And so it'll be interesting to see how much actually evolves. So Tim, real quick, I saw you throw your forecast up there. What's kind of your thinking overnight, and you've been telling your viewers to kind of prepare for the overnight hours?
Well, we're in a drought, and so we like to keep people's expectations in check. I think we should all plan on having at least a quarter of an inch as a small victory. But there will realistically be some spots in the Piedmont that get in that 1 inch range, and I hope it's most areas. That would be wonderful. We'll just see who those folks are. Now, in my area, at least, I do think thunder's a possibility overnight. We're not really expecting severe or damaging thunderstorms, and that could change as you go about the Carolinas, the farther south that you go, but that's not what we're expecting up here in the Triad.
Yeah, for us, we've gone weather impact alert for tomorrow just because 2 reasons. One, we could have a couple strong storms, but we've got the Truist Championship teeing off tomorrow, round 1. They've already delayed the start, Tim, till 11 a.m., so they're kind of being preempted. And people are probably wondering, well, why did they delay? The rain could be gone by 9 or 10. You got to think about the workers on the golf course. Overnight usually is when they're mowing and raking the bunkers and doing all that. They're not going to be able to do that because it's going to be pouring overnight. So that delays getting the course set up. So they've delayed everything until 11. They've done that for Friday as well because I assume they're going to have issues getting the course ready each morning because of how wet they anticipate the overnight hours. Also, if you are going out to the Truist tomorrow, as a golfer and as somebody who's been out there in a rain event, even after it stops raining, have waterproof shoes or good shoes because there's going to be mud and water all over the course, even if it's not falling from the sky. So if you're going out there. So we wanted to give people a heads up tonight, and we're worried about the morning commute being a little soggy tomorrow. But you're right. I'm not overly worried about severe. We kind of talked back and forth. South Carolina is an area to watch. We might have a couple rogue storms down there that get a little bit strong, but all in all, this is a rare case where we're happy. This is a good sign. The impact is positive mostly from this event.
Yeah, and if you guys have friends and family members who are in Greenville, South Carolina, and areas west, so parts of the western upstate, they did get upgraded to a tornado watch about 5 or so minutes ago. So
yeah. So we'll watch it. It's close to us. All right, we're out of time. We'll be tracking these storms. If anything gets crazy tonight, we'll be back here on WCNC, the app. So stick around. We'll be back with more news coming up after the break.